So Steve, we get a lot of information, we get a lot of questions from our customers trying to understand right at the start of the project, should they go for retrofit, existing sites, or should they go for new build?
Yeah, really interesting. I think only the last 3-4 years, probably that they felt it was an actual compromise when we were trying to bring that into the conversation. But interestingly, fast forward ourselves to today, probably 80% of our conversation now with the customers, trying to take into account new technology, is they really do feel there's value.
Yeah, I mean, I guess particularly given some of the constraints that we're coming up against in new build, getting power, connectivity permissions, planning permissions, it's a bit of a minefield, aren't there?
Absolutely. I think, outside of planning, I mean, power is probably number one out there at the moment. Everyone's scrabbling for power. And what's best? It's, existing buildings, power's there. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you even start to even consider as your number one option, why don't we consider retrofit into an existing building? So it just from time, just a time factor,
Yeah, I suppose if you're a DC operator and you're leveraged up, you're borrowing money, you want to get your return as soon as you possibly can.
Absolutely. I mean, just I wouldn't even want to imagine. I mean, new build, probably 2 to 3 years in planning, even before start building. Retrofit for us, customer engages, we're probably within 3-4 months from that initial inquiry. We could be on a site building immediately. So yeah, I think a real positive place, I would say, retrofit is, I would say, starting to move further up the if you want to call it, the food chain.
Yeah, and I suppose, given companies are having to develop these big business cases, we're talking potentially a lot of money in these scenarios. ESG is clearly playing a big part now. So the sustainability angle of a new build data center or even a retrofit, that's going to play more of a factor in getting your business case.
Without a doubt. I mean, sustainability, wherever you go, whoever you talk to, irrespective of customer location, ESG is absolutely at the forefront. And again, with retrofit, just from a carbon perspective, not having to demolish a building, not having to build a new building, just the carbon saving in just that element, reuse some of the existing infrastructure there, absolutely massive benefits, massive.
It's our kind of area of expertise really, but when you're refitting an existing building, often you've got live operational kit that's running in the building. So customers, they've got a huge focus on making sure that we keep the lights on, we keep their operational equipment live while we're doing the work.
Yeah. Every day. I mean, I think that's where we bring our sort of experience, certainly around the self-delivery model, certainly around from not just project management perspective into the delivery side. Yeah, uptime, in their world is absolutely paramount. So to be able to build something or adapt as an existing service whilst maintaining their operation, yeah, number one.
So I mean, really, retrofit, it's not a compromise nowadays, it's a competitive edge.
Absolutely. I would probably say some of the customers we're dealing with are coming more and more to the front, and the conversation is getting stronger and stronger.
So Steve, moving into looking at FM and maintenance, so we're seeing a real shift in the market towards automation and towards reliability center maintenance. They're not just buzzwords anymore.
No, I totally agree. The automation piece for us is really starting to evolve and allowing our engineers actually to focus on what they're good at, and the good at is fixing and resolving the problems and solutions.
Yeah, I mean, totally agree. We see it often across our sites where they're able to take time now, which has been given back to them through automation and optimizing processes, really into doing the things that often don't make it to top of list. Maintenance of engineering standards, that's always the perpetual kind of challenge. There's the things that help make the data center a nicer place, a better place to work, but they languish at the bottom of the list because you've got to do your statutory and planned maintenance.
I think one of the things I'm also seeing, I totally agree with what you're saying, is certainly, I've probably seen again, go back from a time period, about in this last 18 months, it's really starting to see a shift in the amount of emergency call-outs starting to be decreased. Yeah. And I think that really is an element of this automation piece coming into play.
It's getting out ahead of the curve.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's about totally agree, is getting ahead of the curve, yeah, not waiting for it to happen.
Yeah. And I suppose the other bit is it's not just about maintaining uptime. Clearly, that's nearly top of the list for most DC operators. But it's about asset management and asset health, and looking at the longer term, the capex spend. Do we need to sweat our assets? How do we optimize them so that we can keep them for as long as we can?
Again, we're seeing the benefit now, but I think as the time moves on, we're going to see massive improvements in service by using that sort of approach.
Yeah, absolutely. I think our design, build, manage, and maintain model that we've got, helping with the installation and the initial commissioning setup of that, it lends itself straight into the management.
I just think the whole knowledge base, from the beginning, you've gone from designing it to building it. Now you're going to manage it and then you maintain it. Absolutely, certainly, definitely a model that certainly works in this industry and what I think this industry needs.
We're looking as well at skills gaps. This is a headache for most of the UK's construction sector. It's a strategic risk for government. What are we doing in EMCOR about our skills gaps? How do we retain, train and recruit people?
We're no different to any other industry sector, and our real focus now is bringing on new talent. Yeah, and certainly in the DC space, in our data center space, just over these last sort of 2 or 3 years, we've really put more focus, more investment into it. And we've currently got 30 apprentices in life between year 1 and year 4. I mean, and that's step 1, a massive step change. Going forward, absolutely, our aim for 26, we're looking for at least another, just in data centers alone, we're looking for another 20 apprentices. Not just engineering. Yeah. We're talking about the technical side of things, from design to commercial, administration. Yeah, so we're really big strong focus for us.
And I suppose one of the key points that I think is kind of often overlooked is it's not just the technical, the professional skills training there. It's broader than that. It's the leadership skills, the management skills, and those soft skills that really help that kind of career trajectory and that progression. We're not sticking to the typical, as you said, it's not just engineers. We've got a diverse skill set, and we're trying to recruit as with as much diversity as we possibly can.
Our space we're in it's a real technical, complex arena, changing constantly, new technologies. We need to be able to adapt, be agile to that. So yeah, if you're not bringing in new talent, I think you're going to be not just standing still, I think you'll be going backwards. We're wanting to be on the front foot, not back foot. Ollie, the sustainability piece, certainly in our arena now in DC, is playing an ever more critical role into the expectations of owners, operators. What's your feeling around where we are today, and certainly where we're going in the future in this arena?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the first things people know about data centers. Certainly, we're seeing the huge growth of renewables for optimizing energy consumption. We're getting involved in designing for efficiency, so looking at things like heat recovery, other technologies, closed circuit cooling. There's a whole plethora of activity that we're getting into, but ultimately, the data center sector, it needs to get better, and we like to think we're at the forefront of that.
And certainly, going back to we were speaking just a bit earlier around about that retrofit place. I mean, that's certainly starting to have a sort of a key arena. Certainly around the circular economy, where we're trying to sort of be encouraged to reuse as much as possible. What do you think about that bit?
Yeah, the circular economy really is, absolutely, it's key. And I think one of the main areas that, as you said, retrofit for us is a big part of our business model. But also looking into some of the smaller initiatives, recycling, reuse of batteries, a massive user of resource in the DC sector. We're linked in with a number of companies that we can really help to make use of those bits of equipment that are ultimately going to end up in landfill otherwise.
I definitely see that, and certainly the engagement with specialist suppliers that can support us in that sort of circular economy, I think will play an even more critical role, definitely over the next 2 or 3 years. Compliance, security, certainly again, across every sector, every industry, but data centers, as we know, we're operating and it is becoming ever more challenging. How do you think, we can remain agile?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big year or two, I think, for the data center sector. With designation as critical national infrastructure, it feels like there's kind of a groundswell of new regulation coming out. Absolutely, it's a challenge. I think our approach as an organisation, we've got our One Data World platform, which is our kind of single pane of glass to help us be able to see the status of all of our accounts. Yeah. So, we can see what's going on, what projects are happening, what our compliance status is. It really is our main tool in ensuring that we stay compliant. But you're right, it absolutely is a challenge, and it's a people-centric challenge initially, because we need to get in there and understand all of our sites, exactly what we're doing. The information that you get out of a system is only as good as the information that you put into it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking to customers, and it's interesting. Obviously, the hottest topic, on the road at the moment, obviously, is cybersecurity. We're all seeing it, hearing it, feeling it in business and personal lives, But interestingly, I spend a lot of time talking about physical security with customers. As much as dealing with software and hardware, physically trying to stop people from getting into their premises, and that's a real demand. Some of it feels that it's always seemingly on an ad hoc basis. How do we think we can convert that from being ad hoc into being at the forefront of our offering?
It's an integrated approach. One of the biggest vectors for any sort of cyber attack is often the physical element. It starts with people being in places they shouldn't. So absolutely right. We need to think of it as an entire ecosystem, if you like, for security. It's not just about the cybersecurity, the software and the hardware. It's getting people to think that physical security is an initial lead on to any cyber incidents. So, Steve, talking about cost, there's a cost of living crisis that's clearly bled into industry. What's working? What are clients doing?
You'd like to think there would just be one answer, wouldn't it? It's simple. It's a tough out there. Cost consciousness, I would say, probably is one of the more paramount I've seen, certainly in the last year, than perhaps in the previous 6 or 7 years. And they're really looking for supply chain like ourselves in their market, to find the best solution, cost-effective solution. So we've spoken all about all of those things, from retrofit just a little bit earlier, all the way through to compliance, security, all of those things. But everything comes back to cost. So for what I'm seeing, Ollie, and certainly where we're trying to get to with our technical group, design group, is to give them value for money through a design solution, not just trying to make it cheaper.
Yeah. And I suppose if you look at one of the big OpEx costs is going to be energy and power. Yeah. So we can feed into helping organisations reduce their power consumption.
And it's definitely power, but also cooling. As the density of the output, as we see from network cabinets and racks, the demand on cooling is just becoming ever more greater. So the expense to it is, so there's constant looking to be energy saving, which is cost saving ultimately around that.
So it's really doing more with less.
Absolutely. I don't think, but it's about keeping pushing the boundaries, not stopping. What was right yesterday and what's right today certainly is not going to be right for tomorrow. So we've got to keep pushing. I think the demand for us is the challenge. If we can apply all of those things that we've spoken about earlier, from retrofit through to there, I think we'll deliver a real solution into the industries that's cost effective.